What's going on, Jeff? I'm not sure if we can hear you just yet, uh, but welcome back to On Texas Football. We just heard from Steve Sarkisian. While we get Jeff situated there, I can hear the clicks on the mic now, so maybe we got
How
some.
are we doing now?
Now we're doing well.
All right, that's hey, Texas is on an open date. I guess my equipment's on a bye week too, but nonetheless, he's CJ Vogel. I'm Jeff Howard, live from the 40 acres, wrapping up the Steve Sarkisian.
Oh boy, it's gone out again, Jeff. It might be time. I don't know. It's here for the early bye week. It's here for the week of vacation that's ahead of us. I'm not sure what else to say. But we're powering through this. That's what we do over here at On Texas Football. Equipment, no equipment, weather, bad weather, doesn't matter. We're here to bring you the latest from Steve Sarkisian. So as Jeff gets situated, I'll give you some thoughts. Texas now 3-1 on the season, a 55-0 victory over Sam Houston State. Of course, that's all good and well. Well, best case is, of course, Texas now gets a week off to sit back, kind of reevaluate behind the scenes, get some guys back to full health because they've had some injuries over the last 3 weeks as well. And then they will head to the swamp, and we'll talk about that kickoff here in a minute. But, Jeff, let me know if you can hear me and we're back on the same page here.
I've got you. My microphone has just decided it doesn't want to work today. But, yes, let's go ahead right now. Thanks to producer Matthew behind the scenes. I think I'm good on my sound now. Let's go ahead and get it's kind of we'll call it the best of Sark's opening statement from today's press conference.
Good things, obviously scoring on the opening drive of the game, and with that, converting 3 third downs, that had been somewhat of an issue for us here for the first 3 games. So to convert 3 third downs, I think the first one was a 3rd and 9 to DeAndre Moore, and obviously capping it off with the run there by Jarrett Gibson for the touchdown was fantastic. And I think scoring on our first 9 possessions of the game, 7 touchdowns of those 9. And so that part was great. It was definitely an explosive game for us. I think we had 20 explosive plays and a variety of guys creating those explosive plays. It was great to see, going back, looking at the tape from Arch. There were some really high-level throws. There was a deep out to Parker early in the game. That was a heck of a throw. There was a deep crossing route to DeAndre Moore in between 2 defenders. That took a lot of precision, but threw it with a lot of conviction, which was great for him. And his ability to score touchdowns, something that I think sometimes goes unnoticed by this guy when he's in the game. And I think he's got 9 touchdown passes on the year and 5 runs for touchdowns. And so his ability to get the ball in the end zone is a factor. I thought defensively, a lot of guys played, and the idea that we had 5 sacks. I believe by 5 different players in the game is a good sign. 10 TFLs, I think split amongst 10 different players. And so that's a great sign that a lot of guys are playing and doing it at a high level. And I think it points to us having the ability to play complementary football. Our explosive play number is starting to get up to where we need it to be, but yet defensively our ability to minimize those explosive plays is a nice balance of how we're trying to play the game. It's 20 straight home games now. We've created a turnover, and Jelani McDonald is 3 straight weeks. He's been a turnover machine. Had the pick this week, had a pick last week, and then tipped the ball that Gilbo pick that intercepted 2 weeks ago. So he's playing at a really high level for us right now. All in all, we're playing a lot of players, and now we have a pretty good sense and a feel of who we are. I think we're going to see a wave of players coming back, getting healthy in 2 weeks for the Florida game. So we've created the depth that we've needed, and now it's about whose role is kind of what. We've got a 4-game sample size to look at that. Because, when we go to Florida next week, we only get to travel 74 players. And so we don't get to bring the full allotment of guys like we were able to earlier in the year. And so the next week and a half is going to be important for us to really evaluate guys' roles on special teams, as well as their role on offense and defense to build the right group that's going to travel to Gainesville for a tough ball game here in 2 weeks.
CJ, I want to get to a question in the chat real quick. It's by KD35. I am the best. So, CJ, did anyone ask about the O-line? Also, hearing Sark, you feeling that everyone is back for the Florida game? Also, nice. The game in the Swamp will be a night game either. Yes. So the Florida kickoff is going to be a 2:30 kickoff, which I think helps Texas that you don't have to play in the Swamp at night. CJ, but I want to talk about the offensive line because Sark was asked today about some position groups that and maybe you want to see something from during the bye week who needs to clean some things up. He mentioned just getting guys in the secondary back. They'll get Kobe Black and Warren Roberson and Xavier Filsaime back this week. But CJ, I think the O-line is one of those position groups where I think they're still trying to figure some of that out. Connor Robertson coming off of his first start, still evaluating Connor Stroh. Where does Cole Hudson fit in? I assume it's center, but maybe it's left guard. So I still think there's some things that they're going to try to work out during the bye week offensive line-wise just to make sure they're putting the best combination of five on the field.
Yeah, of course, I'm right there with you. It's going to be really interesting to see if there are changes over the next 2 weeks before the kickoff against Florida in that offensive line. Of course, the expectation is Cole Hudson will return ahead of the Florida game. But, Jeff, to your point, Texas will be facing a very difficult Florida front seven. The week after, they'll face probably an even more difficult Oklahoma front seven. And, look, you've got to be prepared up front. Will Texas be prepared with the five that they have on the field currently against both of those fronts? It'll be a challenge. It'll be a great test. There's no doubt about it. Will they be able to get the push and run lanes up front that are required? We'll have to wait and see. But altogether, this next 13 days or so, Jeff, I think is a great opportunity for Texas to really experiment, really kind of finalize what that rotation will look like. And you mentioned it. Is Cole Hudson perhaps best suited for left guard given the performance of Connor Robertson? Or what does that look like? Is he certainly more valuable at that center position? That's all stuff that Texas will figure out over the next week and a half.
Well, I feel like you've got Stroh. You've still got Neto back there, and you've got Cole Hudson. I mean, maybe it could be a deal where Cole Hudson starts at center, but maybe you give Connor Robertson more snaps in game now, if nothing else, just to make sure that, hey, you're still manufacturing some depth at that position. I know you don't want to do that a ton when you get into conference play, and Kyle Flood just hasn't rotated a ton, and center's one of those positions you'd rather not mess with. But, I mean, at the end of the day, CJ, like I said, I think that's the one position group where – I don't know, maybe things are just still in a state of flux. But other than that, Sark seems optimistic, I say that, about kind of where this team is headed right now.
Yeah, they certainly took a step in the right direction this weekend against Sam Houston State. Of course, I think we can all agree that's not the greatest of competition, but just to see them go out there and not fall over one another like bowling pins like they did against UTEP, Jeff, I think is a step in the right direction, of course. So, again, 2 weeks to sit, reevaluate the film and the personnel. It'll be interesting because, again, I did think Nick Brooks looked pretty solid on the back end when he got some run in the fourth quarter. Will he be able to be a guy? Ooh, that bird almost got me. Will they be or will Nick Brooks be somebody that they can rely on as the season progresses later on? That's another name to keep an eye on as well.
And this offensive line right now is not in a position where they're just going to just roll people off the ball or win a game playing bully ball. It's going to have to be, I hate using the term smoke and mirrors, but you're going to have to use motions and shifts. And CJ, I think they're starting to find some kind of identity. And that's one of the things you want to work on during the open date. Hey, find an identity in key situations. I feel like that play action, that split zone play action with tight end coming across the formation, making it an RPO for Arch where he can either hand it off, keep it, or he's got, Jack injuries or Emery Winston or whoever it is kind of leaking out into the flat. It's not an offense, CJ, right now that in short yardage and power situations is just going to dominate people, but I feel like they're starting to find a few things here and there where they can be effective in those areas.
Yeah, I think, again, the increased usage of Arch's legs is going to be something that Texas uses to subsidize, some of the inefficiencies in that run game, right? It's really interesting. Anytime Texas gets to that 2 or 3 yard line on the goal line, you probably put your best money down on Arch running that football into the goal line or into the end zone. And 2 more times this past weekend, they were able to do that successfully. But, yeah, that's never going to be a strength of this Texas team. I hate to say it, but it just hasn't been since you've had a Roshan Johnson or a Bijan Robinson to make guys miss and get skinny in the hole. And, will a healthy C.J. Baxter help the Texas offense? Sure. But still, it's the push up front that I'm looking at saying it's just missing a little bit right now.
Yeah, I want to talk about a part of this Texas team that's elite, and that's the defense. I want to do that in just a minute. But right now, I want to thank our sponsor for this live edition of On Texas Football. That's our friends over at Duck Camp. Duck Camp makes gear for folks who live for being out there, whether that's in a duck blind at sunrise or on the 40 acres for a Saturday kickoff born right here in Austin. Duck Camp builds best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel that works just as well for a full day in the field as it does for a long day of tailgating. From sun protection shirts to keep you cool during those early season scorches to their iconic game series hats that feel like instant classics, Duck Camp gear is ready for football season, hunting season, and every season in between. Get out there, stay out there, and hook 'em. Shop duckcamp.com today. And on Texas Football family, you get a discount at Duck Camp. Just use the promo code ONTEXAS25. That's the code you want to use, ONTEXAS25, for 25% off of your purchase at duckcamp.com. CJ, let's talk about the Texas defense, because one thing that you pointed it out to me before the press conference started, and I looked at a lot of numbers yesterday, but I didn't realize Texas is top 10, top 15 in the country in sacks right now. 5 sacks against Sam Houston, all by different guys. Look, I know it's Sam Houston, but I just like the fact, CJ, that now, whether it's Colin Simmons or Trey Moore, this defense can start building some confidence, knowing that, all right, we can get home. We are getting somewhere. Just kind of keep chopping wood, keep doing what you're doing, and the results will be there at some point.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that's where Texas should be sitting right now, but they're right there, top 20 in the country in sacks so far this year. Of course, 5 sacks this past weekend will help that cause, but you're seeing different guys get after the quarterback, and that was a big point of emphasis from Steve Sarkisian today. Look, Texas, 11 tackles for loss on Saturday against Sam Houston State, all of them basically by different players, right? I think 10 accounted for the 11. That's a great sign, especially in the sack game as well. You look at the Texas statistics of 9, 10 different guys all have sacks already this season. That's going to play a big role as Texas starts winding up and undialing some more of that playbook defensively. You know, can you get a Brad Spence involved with an Anthony Hill and a Colin Simmons on the field together? I thought Trey Moore off the edge for the second straight week has looked very quick, and that again allows Colin Simmons to be moved wherever he wants to on that defensive line. So it's a chess match moving forward for the Texas front seven. And Jeff, to your point, getting these guys involved early in the season just increases their confidence, which again was another point made by Steve Sarkisian. When you play with confidence, it helps not just the players on the field, but the coaches and the press box, or in the coordinator box, or on the sideline, saying we can do whatever we please with our playbook.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on this, CJ. Just a little tangent from me before I get there, though. You know, I was looking at some numbers last night again. I looked at Bill Connelly over ESPN. The SP Plus is one metric that I love looking at. You know, Texas right now, number 1 in the country in SP Plus defense. Offensive SP Plus, they're 44th. And I think we see, okay, let's let the offense get some pieces back and kind of see where it goes. Again, SEC play is not necessarily where you want to be finding yourself, but that's just the situation that Texas is in right now with the injuries. But CJ, the number 1 defense in the country by a lot of different metrics. And the more I watch Jelani McDonald, as good as Anthony Hill is, and as good as Colin Simmons is, and we can talk about other pieces of this defense, I feel like Jelani McDonald is quickly rising to a level where when you talk about the better, more impactful defensive players in this conference, his name's got to start getting brought up more often.
He's definitely in that conversation now, which is pretty remarkable given where he was when he arrived at Texas, right? He was originally a cornerback, and then they moved him to linebacker. Then they said, you know what, we just don't know how your body's going to continue to grow. Let's try you at safety. And I know Blake Gideon at the time fought for him pretty hard to remain in that safety room, and for good reason, right? We're seeing how he's evolved as a football player before our very eyes, Jeff. And Sark mentioned it in that opening press conference that we just heard. 3 straight games where he's been able to get his hand on the football to create a turnover, right? Originally, it was the deflection that Jalen Gilbo was able to come down with. And then in back-to-back games, he's now had an interception. I asked Jelani after the game, I said, you got up there pretty high for that interception. Is that the highest you've ever jumped to get your hand on a football? And he said, oh, no, that clip that went viral in fall camp or spring football, whenever it was, when he soared up there, one-handed grab, he's like, yeah, that was probably my highest peak. But altogether, Jeff, whether it's helping in run support, getting after the quarterback, his coverage, which has been superb as well, or creating turnovers, Jelani McDonald definitely one of the biggest pieces of this Texas defense, and a big reason why they're top of the country in a number of different metrics.
Yeah, I want to get to this question from Joe Z real quick. Says, is Emmett Mosley a real person or a ghost at this point? In all seriousness, Sark did say they're going to get a lot of guys back this week. They'll get a lot of guys healthy for the Florida game. Presumably, Emmett Mosley is one of those guys, CJ, but we talk about on defense, like as good as his defense has been, they're going to get Kobe Black back in the mix. Warren Roberson will be back. Xavier Filsaime will be back. as good as this defensive front has played, they've been without Alex January, so that's a key piece that they're going to get back as far as that interior D-line rotation goes. It's good to know at this point that, again, fingers crossed, barring anything unforeseen in practice leading up to the trip to Gainesville, CJ, this team will be pretty much healthier than it's been all year, most likely when they go to Gainesville in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I guess it hasn't been made enough of a conversation so far this year. But look, you're down running back 1, running back 2, you're starting center, 2 presumable starters at wide receiver this year, starting defensive linemen, rotational pieces in the secondary. Texas really hasn't been as healthy as it has been made out to look, or even, basically assumed so far this year. But this bye week is coming at the perfect time, right? Because it allows these guys who, again, nothing too severe, Jeff, and I think that's the biggest point. It allows them to get back to as close to full strength as they've probably been since before fall camp, and that's huge, right? Getting Trey Wisner and hopefully CJ Baxter back early in SEC play. I'm not going to put, in an exact timetable on Baxter, but you mentioned Kobe Black, your cornerback 3, getting Xavier Filsaime, who the staff has really started to grow in favor of recently as well. It's huge for the Longhorns. And again, I think getting Cole Hudson back is very important for this offensive line as well.
Yeah, we're getting some breaking news in the chat, some SEC basketball breaking news. So some stuff about Bruce Pearl. We'll check that out and see what that's all about. But CJ, as we wrap this up, and again, we'll have Talking Ball with Bobby and Jerry on the channel today. CJ, you're on the live stream tonight with Rod and Coach Shipley. So you guys will be talking about the Sark press conference, SEC play, the bye week, looking at this team at the halfway point. And there it is right there. Like, I know we're not, we're talking Texas football, but when you talk about basketball in the SEC, man, that's as big in news as you can get. Bruce Pearl, the Auburn head men's basketball coach, retiring. So actually, basketball practice starts this week. We actually met with Sean Miller last week. So meet with some players tomorrow. CJ, that's about as big a news preseason SEC basketball as we've had in a very long time.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, you look back at who's been in that competition for SEC championships. We just watched them in the national championship not too recently as well. This is massive for the landscape of the SEC, and I think Bruce Pearl deserves a lot of credit for the trajectory the SEC has made over the last decade plus, going to those high-scoring offenses and really evolving the conference into one of the most competitive, high-level conferences in all of the country when it comes to basketball. I think it's also a big reason why Sean Miller is here today in Austin, because of the style of play that the SEC has adopted, and Bruce Pearl being a big reason for that.
No doubt, if you're going to compete with Bruce Pearl and Todd Golden of Florida, obviously Cal, Mark Pope in Kentucky, you got to be able to score points, and that's what Sean Miller was brought here to do. Pretty tough test right out of the gate against Duke in Charlotte to open the season, but looking forward to covering basketball this year under Sean Miller. But getting back, CJ, real quick to Texas football. My big takeaway, I thought Sark talking about getting DeAndre Moore back. They got some of their personality back, talking about this team needs to just play loose. We'll elaborate more on that throughout the week. We talked about that a lot last week. Hey, you play loose, play with confidence, but Sark really now trying to find the balance of, hey, you need to have a detail-oriented, buttoned-up team, but at the same time, this team, and maybe it's just a younger, inexperienced team that just needs to play loose and needs to have fun to succeed on the field. So we'll elaborate more about that. CJ, I don't know if you wanted to hit that or anything else you want to hit on. I'll give you the last word as we wrap this up.
Yeah, I mentioned how it may have felt like Texas had, kind of escaped the injury bug earlier, but you're seeing all these guys come back. I don't think anyone is more important to this team than DeAndre Moore. Sark mentioned there were 2 plays specifically where he highlighted and praised DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo, in which they did not receive the football. The first was on a Dalen McCutcheon 17-yard scramble or 21-yard reception on a bubble screen, where both Wingo and Moore really solidified their blocks on the outside. He was able to hit the corner and run up the sideline. The other was Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore clearing out on post routes to allow Jordan Washington to leak out on the tight end leak for a 32-yard touchdown as well. But altogether, the play of DeAndre Moore is very important. But I think it's more than that. I think it's the heartbeat. I think it's the leadership. I think it's the guy that shows that he cares, that trickles on to other players that maybe we didn't see with him off the field. We talk about that swagger and confidence with Arch Manning. Look, if the rest of the 11 can take over just a little bit that from DeAndre Moore. Well, Jeff, you're in a better position now with him back on the field than you were with him off.
Yeah, and I mean, Sark straight up said it after the game on Saturday. Look, DeAndre Moore was pretty much raised in this program by Jordan Whittington. We all know how important Jay Witt was to where this program is now, where it was, and the trajectory it's taken. So DeAndre Moore is taking that baton, and he's running with it. All right, want to thank CJ. Thank you for the knowledge and expertise, as always, as we cover this bye-week Steve Sarkisian press conference. Want to thank Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thanks to our friends over at Duck Camp for sponsoring it. If you're not a member, over to ontexasfootball.com. Get over to the site right now. Sign up using the promo code OTFOG. That'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. Also, again, I mentioned our friends at Duck Camp. If you go to duckcamp.com to get your gear, use the promo code ONTexas25. That's ONTexas25 for your 25% discount at duckcamp.com. Also, make sure you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or over on the site, you're not missing anything throughout Texas football season. We've got all the news, notes, and nuggets coming out of the 40 acres. For CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, welcome.